is Allison. I'm the Programs Outreach and Youth Services Manager here at Monterey County Free Libraries. Thank you for joining me today for another episode of Book Chat. Tonight I'm going to be chatting with you about the book Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. So some of you may have read this book possibly, but most of you have probably heard of the movie. It is the prequel to Silence of the Lambs, and the movie stars Edward Norton and Anthony Hopkins and Ralph Fiennes. It's one of my favorite movies. Some of you might have watched my book chat last year on Silence of the Lambs, which is one of my absolute favorite movies. And after reading Silence of the Lambs last year and really enjoying it, I wanted to read Red Dragon because I also really enjoy that movie. For a long time, I had actually thought that I liked Red Dragon more than Silence of the Lambs, but this reading of the book and rewatching of the movie made me realize that Silence of the Lambs is just the absolute best. So if you haven't watched my book chat on that and you're interested, I would recommend going through our book chat playlist and checking that out. So something that a lot of people don't realize is that Red Dragon was actually written before Silence of the Lambs. So it is a prequel to Silence of the Lambs, but it wasn't written after the success of Silence of the Lambs. It was actually written first, and additionally, the first film adaptation of it was made prior to Silence of the Lambs. It was the movie Manhunter. And then it was redone as Red Dragon after Silence of the Lambs, the movie took off and had great success. So Red Dragon follows the main character, Detective Will Graham, as he is investigating a murder. So it's very similar to the setup of Silence of the Lambs, where there's a detective who is tracing a murder. But Will Graham has a history with Hannibal Lecter, where he was the one that discovered Lecter as a serial killer and put Lecter behind bars. So they have a much different relationship than Clarice and Hannibal Lecter have in Silence of the Lambs. And the relationship is upped a bit in the movie. It's not as much in the book. One of my favorite things to do is to read books that I love the movies for and compare and contrast to see why filmmakers decided to change certain things. And interestingly, I wasn't as interested in the action of the book of Red Dragon, and I can see why Silence of the Lambs caught public attention a little bit more. I feel like there was a little bit more development in that, and I had trouble following some of the relationships that were in Red Dragon. But Red Dragon follows Will Graham, like I said, as he is following two murders that have happened, and they're trying to prevent a third murder from happening. And it flips back and forth, as does Silence of the Lambs, between Will Graham's perspective as he's working on the case and the actual murderer's perspective. The murderer is Francis Dollarhide, and in the film adaptation, Edward Norton plays Will Graham, and Ralph Fiennes plays Francis Dollarhide. And Dollarhide they go into a lot more detail about his past than in the movie to explain some of the trauma that he experienced as a child and why he's kind of ended up the way that he is. And for a while, one of the big things in the film is the relationship that Dollarhide has with a female coworker, and how she kind of helps him to discover a slightly different part of himself. And that didn't come out until a little bit later in the book, so I was kind of surprised by that, and at one point I actually was wondering if she was even going to appear, but she does appear. And so it just traces the action between Francis Dollarhide preparing possibly for his next murder while also trying to kind of stifle those murderous feelings, and Will Graham piecing together different aspects of the case, leading him closer and closer to Dollarhide. So it's a great crime thriller. Again, I didn't find it as interesting or captivating as Silence of the Lambs, but I still enjoyed reading it. So if you're a fan of the movies, I would say that you should check out the book and give it a try. It's fun to compare and contrast. One thing that was really interesting to me is that Will Graham's family life in the movie versus the book is completely different. So in the movie, he has a wife and a kid, but in the book, it's actually his stepson. So that creates a lot of different dynamic with the family. And actually, towards the end, it seems like there's not going to be a happy resolution for him and his family. Whereas in the movie, everybody's kind of lovey-dovey at the end and it's all okay. It's also fun to see parts from the book that are completely lifted and put straight into the film. I love doing that. So again, that was Thomas Harris's Red Dragon. It's in our collection. I would recommend it if you like the movies and if you like Silence of the Lambs. It's always fun to read the complete series. And I think it's also really fun to read a first book in a series to see how the author's voice develops as he moves forward with the different characters. If you have any books you'd like to recommend, please let us know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody.